From hearing last week's episode on the value a podcast can bring, tell me if any of these thoughts started creeping in. The first one is, I don't have the time to do a podcast, Ren. I don't have a lot of time as it is. How am I going to have time to plan and record and promote my podcast? Time is a bear and it's a big commitment. So if you've heard that thought, I want you to keep listening. Maybe you had this thought. Maybe you do have margin in your week and you're like, I do have time, but you've thought, I don't know how much a podcast costs, like hosting and music and equipment, those one-time fees, and maybe it's a hidden fee and maybe the long-term money I'm going to have to spend in this. And so maybe you've thought that. Maybe you thought tech is just too hard. The technology of it, there's a lot to it, and I don't know what I don't know. And when I Google something or Google how to start, it's just overwhelming. Just all the challenges with tech. If you thought that, I want you to keep listening. Maybe you've thought, hey, I don't like learning something new. I have this well-oiled machine, what I have here, but I don't want to put anything new on my plate. I don't know. I don't want to learn anything new. I don't want to learn about growing and engaging audience. I don't want to learn about podcasting. If that's you, I want you to keep listening. Maybe you have felt unsure and just downright fearful, and just that vulnerability place that you're coming from where you're scared of what to share, and maybe you share too much, or maybe you get negative feedback. Just you have a problem with finding your voice and that confidence. I want you to keep listening. Maybe you felt this way. You don't know what the steps are to sustain the podcast. You're good setting it up, but what about sustaining it? You don't know what the steps are for your content to be good and to have the content that will bring those future clients and customers in. Keep listening. So, with all of these doubtful thoughts that you are having that come from inside, and they're secret, they're silent, you don't even hear them out loud, but you've had those. So I'm going to be straight up with you. I really want to start singing the Paula Abdul song, straight up now, tell me. I really want to sing that right now, but I'm gonna hold back. I'm not going to do that. Okay. So straight up, let me be straight up with you. Okay. So you need to have a raw, honest look at what the time commitment is for a podcast. You need to look at it really in depth and see what's on your plate now and what you have margin for. So yes, I agree with you. You do need to look at that. And I would agree also, you need to know what your ongoing cost commitment will be for a podcast, what your one-time cost is, and then what the ongoing fee might be. Also, you need someone to show you how to do the tech step by step. I agree. You need that. You also need to reframe in your mind about learning something new, and that doesn't have to be hard. It's just new. I had a client tell me that. You're going to hear from her next week. It doesn't have to be hard. It's just new. So there's some reframing in your mind that you need. Absolutely. I agree with you. And you do need to walk through that vulnerability and the unsurety and the fear that usually means you're on the right path and that you need to find your voice. And through that, going through the unsurety and the vulnerability and the fear, you will find your voice. And yeah, I agree. You do need to have a content plan that will allow you to know exactly what to record and to do it consistently. And I'm about to blow you away right now. I'm about to blow your mind. Each one of these that I just mentioned, these solutions to those pesky, doubtful thoughts, are covered in my flight group program. Every single one. Did you relate to any of those? Did you feel one of those just jump out, or maybe a couple of those jump out at you? I want you to ask yourself these questions. What would it look like for you to go from wondering where your next client is coming from to having future clients and customers listening intently to you? What would you feel like if you could go from being unsure of the technology to learning the steps for how to record, how to upload, how to edit, how to publish your show in easy to understand steps? And what would it feel like if you could go from not knowing what to say on your podcast to having a custom content plan that gives you that confidence? What would you say if you could go from only thinking about having your podcast to actually launching it because of having accountability? And then I want you to think about going from doing it all alone to having a support from a group of like minded women. Okay. So I want you to think about those and just let those marinate, sit. If you need to pause, pause it. What would you feel if you could go from those things to having a podcast within 2 months, within 8 weeks? I want to tell you about my flight group program waitlist. When you get your name on the waitlist, you will have a podcast resource video that will show you exactly what is included in starting your podcast, regardless if you do it with me or not. But what is included when you start a podcast? What are the time investments? What are the money investments? What do you need to know in order to start that podcast, your podcast? Then, when the cart opens on July 31st, you will get first dibs to one of the spots. The spots are extremely limited to keep the group small and safe and just where we will keep each other accountable, and we can be vulnerable in those. So I'm keeping them very small. So when you get on the wait list, you get that. You get the resource video. It's 28 minutes long. And then also you will be the first to be notified about the flight group program. There's no commitment. You get on the wait list, you get that resource video, and then you're the first to know about the open cart for flight group. The group does start on August 10th. And so the cart will only be open for a few days. And so I want to give you that. If you saw yourself in any of these things, I really want you to sit with it. And remember, I'm here to help because life's too short to just wing it. Bye, friend.